And I think at this point we can move along to influenza. And I believe, Dr. Karen, if you can introduce.
Yes, and I thought maybe in the interest of time I would do it right from my seat.
Thank you.
Yes.
Actually, we have a request. If you can do it without the slides, Dr. Smith is going to try and swap out computers to something that runs a little more efficiently.
I absolutely can do that. So I first actually just wanted to thank our working group for a tremendous effort, particularly over the last couple of months as we considered a lot of very late-breaking data. Since October of 2014, we've had continued discussion of the effectiveness of LAIV, live-attenuated influenza vaccine, and inactivated influenza vaccine for both the 2013-14 and the 2014-15 flu season. We've also reviewed data pertaining to the recently approved quadrivalent intradermal influenza vaccine. In the interest of time today, we are truncating some of our presentations. So what you will hear today are the updated interim vaccine effectiveness estimates for the 2014 season. That's from the CDC, an update on live attenuated influenza vaccines from MedImmune, and proposed recommendations for the 2015-2016 influenza season. From Lisa Grosskopf of the CDC. Other information is included in your packet but won't be presented today, and that's information about the influenza surveillance update and also information about the new flu zone intradermal quadrivalent influenza vaccine. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Karen. And then we're going to move along to Dr. Flannery on an updated interim vaccine effectiveness estimate.
Okay, so as Dr. Karen said, I'll present a brief update on influenza vaccine effectiveness during the current season, as well as for live attenuated and inactivated vaccines. I will only present limited methods, but there's more detail on the slides that were in the handout. Okay, so these updated interim VE estimates are based on 4,913 patients with acute respiratory illness with cough of 7 or fewer days duration enrolled from November 10th to January 30th of this year. The study uses a test-negative design that you're familiar with. All patients are tested for influenza, and vaccination among influenza-positive cases is contrasted with that of influenza-negative cases or negative patients. 67% of enrollees were influenza negative, so those are our comparison group. 33% were influenza positive. 94% of influenza positive cases were type A, and all subtyped A viruses were H3N2. 764 H3N2 viruses, or more than half, were genetically characterized at CDC using a novel pyrosequencing assay that determines genetic group from which antigenic properties can be inferred. This is a first for this season, and I'll present some of those data. 85% of the H3N2 viruses from the flu VE network participants belong to genetic groups that are generally low reactors with the A Texas 50 2012 vaccine H3N2 virus, while only 15% of H3N2 viruses were genetically more vaccine-like. Among influenza B cases from the flu VE network, most were B Yamagata lineage, the B lineage included in both the trivalent and quadrivalent 14-15 vaccines. This table updates the early interim VE estimates from the January 16th MMWR report. H3N2 results are shown because they were similar to VE against all influenza A and B. Adjusted VE estimates against influenza H3N2 illness overall for all ages was 18%, okay, with a confidence interval from 6 to 29%. None of the age-specific VE estimates were statistically significant. All the confidence intervals overlap with 0, suggesting the possibility of no effectiveness. There was evidence of higher vaccine effectiveness against influenza B, although because of small numbers, we're only able to present the estimate for all ages. The vaccine effectiveness against influenza B for all ages was 45%, with a 95% confidence interval from 14 to 65%. So these are the new data for this season. The numbers of genetically characterized H3N2 viruses from patients enrolled in the VE network were sufficient to provide interim estimates of vaccine effectiveness against predominant genetic groups of H3N2 viruses. The first row shows the adjusted VE against H3N2 illness for patients age 6 months and older. The row that's highlighted in white shows 115 H3N2 viruses that were genetically characterized in vaccine-like groups 3C3 or 3C3b. 39% of these patients were vaccinated, compared to 57% of our influenza-negative patients. Adjusted VE against vaccine-like H3N2 was 49%, with a confidence interval from 18% to 69%, suggesting that the vaccines performed better against vaccine-like viruses. The bottom two rows boxed in red, with 624 cases due to group 3C2A and 25 cases due to group 3C3A, indicates no or low vaccine effectiveness against viruses in these antigenically drifted or low reactor groups, albeit with wide confidence intervals. And of note, the reference virus from the 3C3A group, the Switzerland virus, was selected for the 15-16 influenza vaccines. And there's cross-reactivity with viruses, the more common viruses from the 3C2A group. Now I'll quickly present VE for the live attenuated and inactivated vaccines among children and adolescents. So briefly, just for these methods, only subjects aged 2 to 17 years were included in this analysis. Children who had received at least one dose of current season vaccine at least 14 days prior to illness onset were considered vaccinated. Vaccine type was determined from medical record if available, but we used parent record or parent report of vaccine type if no medical record documentation of vaccine type was available, and 12 children with unknown or unreported vaccine type were excluded. Vaccine effectiveness is calculated separately for live attenuated and inactivated vaccines, where patients unvaccinated this season are the referent group. This table shows the interim adjusted VE estimates against H3N2 positive cases for one or more dose of the current season vaccine by vaccine type, although the first three rows show age group specific estimates for any influenza vaccine. Adjusted VE for one or more dose of any vaccine among 2 to 17-year-olds was 7%, with confidence intervals that included 0 or no effectiveness. Estimates for younger and older children were similar. Analyses for LAIV exclude children who received inactivated vaccines this season. Similar proportions of influenza positive and influenza negative patients received LAIV this season. Adjusted VE ranged from -20 to -24%, with confidence intervals overlapping 0, suggesting no effectiveness for LAIV against H3N2 viruses so far this season. Analyses for inactivated vaccine exclude children who received LAIV. Adjusted VE estimates range from 15% to 19%, again with confidence intervals including no effect, and overlapping with confidence intervals for VE estimates for LAIV. MedImmune is also conducting an observational study of vaccine effectiveness at 4 sites in the US. This slide with interim 2014-15 results from their study was prepared by MedImmune and shared with us for comparison with results from the US Flu VE network. The study enrolls patients from 2 to 17 years presenting with febrile illness of less than 5 days duration. Vaccine status is determined by medical record or registries, and subjects vaccinated fewer than 14 days before onset are excluded. Influenza is confirmed, as for the Flu VE network, by PCR, and influenza PCR negative subjects are the comparison group. This analysis includes 988 enrollees. This table shows the number of influenza-positive cases and influenza-negative controls in each group of children and adolescents, according to receipt of the 2014-15 influenza vaccine. Adjusted vaccine effectiveness is presented in the 3 columns on the right. Adjusted VE for any vaccine against any influenza was 27%, with a confidence interval from -1 to 47%. Adjusted vaccine effectiveness for LAIV was 19%, and for inactivated vaccine was 31%, with confidence intervals that included 0 or no effect and overlapped. Adjusted VE against H3N2 was 16% for LAIV and 33% for inactivated vaccine, which reached statistical significance for inactivated vaccine. There were too few influenza B cases to produce reliable estimates of vaccine effectiveness by vaccine type for influenza B in children and adolescents. In conclusion, low interim VE estimates are consistent with the predominance of antigenically drifted H3N2 viruses. H3N2 accounted for 95% of all influenza-positive cases at U.S. flu VE network sites, and more than 80% of genetically characterized H3N2 cases were substantially drifted from the H3N2 vaccine virus. In analyses by viral genetic group, we observed low or no vaccine effectiveness against drifted H3N2 viruses. There was limited circulation of vaccine-like H3N2 and influenza B viruses, against which vaccine effectiveness was higher. Interim VE estimates from the 2 studies provide no evidence of better protection for LAIV in the 14-15 season, with the predominance of drifted H3N2 viruses. For final season VE estimates from the U.S. flu VE network, we plan to complete the genetic characterization of influenza viruses and update VE estimates for LAIV and IIV with verification of vaccine type and prior vaccination, comorbidities, and further analyses of differences in circulating viruses by site. And finally, I'd like to acknowledge the many contributions to the U.S. flu VE network at the 5 participating sites, my CDC colleagues, and the investigators from MedImmune who shared the preliminary data for this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee? Okay.
Thank you for this opportunity to give an update on the effectiveness of LAIV, the results of our investigation into the observed low effectiveness of LAIV against the H1N1 strain in 2013-14, and the actions we're going to take to ensure the high effectiveness of LAIV in future seasons. We've discussed our findings in detail with the influenza work group, and at their request, we're sharing a very abbreviated summary today. So go to the next slide. This is the summary. Good effectiveness of LAIV in children was observed for H3N2 and B strains in recent years, but low effectiveness was seen for the A California H1N1 strain in the U.S. in 2 recent seasons, in 2010-11 and 2013-14. We've concluded that this issue is specific to the A California H1N1 LAIV strain and may be specific to LAIV used in the United States. Our best explanation for the clinical data is that the H1N1 strain has a unique HA Stalk sequence that compromises the stability of its hemagglutinin, making the strain less fit and more vulnerable to heat degradation. HA heat stability appears linked to the effectiveness of the California strain because detailed analysis of the available effectiveness data shows that vaccine shipping when outdoor temperatures are over 80 degrees correlates with the reduced effectiveness of A California LAIV, but not other LAIV strains. To remedy this in the future, we will replace the A California LAIV strain with an antigenically matched strain with a more stable HA. So, so first a quick review of VE data from recent studies in the US and Canada. This slide shows VE against H3 and B strains in children 2 to 8 years of age in the CDC and MedImmune studies done in 4 recent seasons. LAIV effectiveness is in blue and IIV is in gray. LAIV effectiveness was consistently moderate to high against H3N2 and B strains in every season. This slide shows the effectiveness against the H1N1 PDM09 strains, and this strain contained in the LAIV was always the A California strain in all the studies. LAIV was effective against H1N1 in the 2009-10 season, but not in the 2010-11 or 2013-14 seasons. So to summarize, in the US, LAIV was consistently effective against H3N2 and B strains, but had variable effectiveness against the H1 PDM09 strains. A different picture was seen in the Canadian studies done in 2013-14, and these data are from Dr. Danuta Skowronski, who's kindly shared them with us. LAIV was highly effective in Canada against any influenza strain in individuals under 20 years of age and in children 2 to 8 years of age, which was statistically significant. As noted, 59% of the strains in this study were H1N1. The results were similar when looking at H1N1 PDM09 strains only. However, due to fewer cases, these estimates had wide confidence intervals and were not statistically significant. These results are supported by results of a second Canadian study, as shown on the next slide. This slide summarizes data from the relative study as presented by Jeffrey Kong at the Canadian Immunization Conference in December. This was a cluster randomized trial of LAIV and IIV in elementary school children in Ontario in 2013-14. The incidence of influenza in the children was significantly lower among LAIV recipients compared to IIV recipients, indicating that LAIV did protect against the H1N1 PDM09 strain in Canada in the 2013-14 season. These results support the conclusion that the low effectiveness of LAIV against the H1N1 strain may have been US specific. I'd like to now focus on the hypothesis that is consistent with all of the data I've just shown you and is the most biologically plausible explanation for the low effectiveness of the A. California LAIV strain in 2 recent influenza seasons in the US. We believe that the unique A. California HA Stalk sequence explains the low LAIV effectiveness against H1N1 in some of the US studies. The A. California wild type and LAIV have a glutamic acid at position 47, which is abbreviated E47 in the HA stalk that reduces the HA trimer stability and viral fitness. E47 is not present in seasonal viruses and is not prevalent in the current H1N1 PDM09 strains. When we replace the A. California strain in the upcoming season with a more recent H1N1 strain, that strain will not possess the E47 and will have enhanced HA stability and viral fitness. We've shown that the E47 sequence significantly reduces infectivity in ferrets and it increases vulnerability to heat degradation in increasing temperatures between 120 and 160 degrees. The way to think about these experiments is that it takes more heat to pull apart an unstable HA, stable HA, than it does to pull apart an unstable HA. The A. California LAIV strain with E47 in its stalk is readily differentiated from other seasonal type A and B LAIV strains, including LAIV strains with known efficacy. Given the A. California strain's increased vulnerability to heat degradation, we hypothesize that even relatively minor and routine exposures to temperatures above the recommended storage temperature of 36 to 46 degrees could lead to potency loss, which in turn could lower the real-world effectiveness. In the normal US distribution process, exposures to temperatures over 70 degrees can occur at multiple points after leaving the metamine chain of control. Standard processes permitted vaccine exposure to room temperature up to 79 degrees for up to 2 hours after unloading from refrigerated trucks at distributors and also while packing out shipments to customers. We've documented, in fact, that one of the lots most frequently used in both the MedImmune and CDC studies in 2013-14 was outside the refrigerated warehouse for 1 hour and 15 minutes at the distributor. We've recently shown a 1 log decline in A. California potency occurs after 24 hours at 91 degrees. We're now studying the impact of shorter-term exposures on strain potency and infectivity. In this graphic, the proportion of MedImmune recipients in the MedImmune and CDC studies who had H1N1 illness is on the vertical axis, and on the horizontal axis is the temperature at the distributor site at the date and time of truck unloading. Each circle on this graph represents a separate lot, and the size of the circle corresponds to the number of subjects receiving the lot. in the studies. The actual number of recipients in each lot is given inside the circles. As you can see, there's a strong and significant correlation between lot effectiveness and the outdoor temperature when the truck was unloaded at the distributor, with a cut point around 80 degrees. This suggests that the temperature exposure at the distributors during unloading may have adversely affected the performance of the A. California LAIV strain, which is consistent with this strain's increased vulnerability to heat degradation. This slide shows a similar association between reduced A. California effectiveness in shipping during hotter weather before mid-September. As you can see, LAIV effectiveness against H1N1 was low in 2010 and 2010-11 and 2013-14 in the US, when most of the doses were shipped during warmer weeks before mid-September. In contrast, LAIV effectiveness against H1N1 was high in 2009-10 in the US and 2013-14 in Canada, when doses were shipped in the cooler weeks after mid-September. This analysis is consistent with the hypothesis that the lower fitness of the California strain, its vulnerability to high temperature, and its potential exposure to temperatures above 36 to 46 degrees during distribution reduced the effectiveness of the A. California LAIV strain in 2 influenza seasons. All this brought us to our lead hypothesis, that the reduced fitness and increased vulnerability of the A. California LAIV to heat degradation could explain the variable effectiveness of LAIV against H1N1 strains. Critical to this hypothesis is that we know from previous randomized controlled trials that LAIV efficacy can be significantly reduced at 1 log lower potency. The key point, then, is that the primary deficiency is the unique characteristics of the A. California HA. The recent H3N2 and B strains, which do not have that unique vulnerability of the California strain, have been effective in all recent seasons, consistent with our multiple previous randomized controlled studies. I'd now like to turn to our plans for the 2015-16 and future influenza seasons. The primary remedy is to replace the A. California strain in the 2015-16 vaccine with an antigenically similar strain with a more stable HA. This strain will not contain the E47 residue and will have a heat tolerance similar to strains with demonstrated effectiveness. As I showed you at the start of the presentation, none of the other LAIV strains have been ineffective, even though all of them were subject to the same distribution process and potential temperature exposures. And this highlights that the normal LAIV strains are really quite resilient, and the A. California is an outlier in this respect. Nevertheless, we're working with our U.S. distributors to eliminate any significant exposures above the recommended storage temperature of 36 to 46 degrees during shipping and handling. So going forward, we're expecting additional effectiveness data for quadrivalent LAIV from several studies in the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. And MedImmune has an ongoing randomized controlled efficacy trial in Japanese children 6 to 18 years of age, for which we expect efficacy data later this year. So in closing, we're confident that the replacement of the A. California H1N1 PDM09 strain with a more robust strain with a more stable HA will result in future effectiveness that is consistent with what we've seen previously in LAIV and randomized controlled trials, and with what we've seen for other strains in the recent observational studies. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Curran.
Thank you very much, Kathy, for that clear presentation. I know you mentioned this, but it went by very quickly. Can you say in the 2013-2014 season, we were using quadrivalent vaccine here, and I believe that in Canada, where effectiveness of the H1N1 was demonstrated, they were using trivalent. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, but that going forward, we will be able to compare quadrivalent to quadrivalent because all countries are now using quadrivalent.
That's correct. So starting, just to make it easy for everybody, starting with the upcoming 2015-16 season, globally, everything will be quadrivalent.
Okay, but there will be data from this season, 2014, 2015, as you mentioned in your slides, from other countries
Correct.
using quadrivalent.
Dr. Romero.
So, John and Larry, forgive me if this question is out of the scope of what we're allowed to ask as ACIP, but the question that I have for you all is, so what measures are in place to check for the thermal lability or stability, if you will, of future strains? Because this is probably not just an anomaly. It happens more frequently in nature than we realize.
Good question. So I'm glad you asked that. We routinely, as you probably know, we make our own strains. So we're responsible for ensuring that we choose the absolute best, most optimal strain. So in the past, we have not seen this phenomenon. And so this screening for HA stability was not part of our routine screening of incoming strains that we're considering for inclusion in the vaccine. But it now is. So I think there are some backups in your handouts that actually show that you can very nicely and quite reliably now in the laboratory discriminate between strains that have this unique characteristic and don't have heat stability. So we'll screen by sequence, but it's more important to screen by actual function, to actually pressure test it in the lab and see which strains might be more optimal than others and have a better HA stability.
Dr. Reingold.
So this is something I haven't thought about before. You mentioned you're going to work with distributors to try and reduce exposure to higher temperatures, but what do we actually know about handling a vaccine where it's being administered in terms of it's being left out and how long it sits there, particularly as it's being given more and more in pharmacies and in a variety of places? Do we know anything about how it's handled in these various settings?
What we do know is that the LAIV is quite stable even at 25 degrees, so at what you would call room temperature. So if you're handling it in a clinic, for example, it is very, it's resilient to leaving it, for, say, a day. But as far as, I think you're asking the wrong person about how it's actually handled by the provider, if that's what you're asking. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure that there's an entire range of practices. And what we try to do, in our stability program, it's always monitored at the recommended storage temperature of 2 to 8 degrees, or refrigeration temperature, or 36 to 46 Fahrenheit, whichever you like best. But anyway, our stability program monitors that recommended storage. But we also go outside because we know that some people like to get prepared for a big clinic and they don't thaw them one by one. So that's why we're very careful to make sure that it would be stable under those kind of conditions too.
Dr. Kimberlin.
David Kimberlin, AAP. Thank you very much for that presentation. You presented on some of your slides the vaccine effectiveness estimates for 2 to 8-year-olds or 2 through 8-year-olds for LAIV4. Can you remind us for the 2013-14 season, what was the vaccine effectiveness for 9 to 17 or through 17-year-olds? My recollection from the October meeting is that there was effectiveness there.
That there was. Indeed, it trended higher than in the 2 to 8, which was a surprising finding.
And was it statistically significant that there was effectiveness in the 9 through 17-year-olds?
No, it wasn't.
Was not statistically significant. All right, thank you.
Any other comments? Oh. Yes, Dr. Lair.
Jamie Lair from the AAFP. You mentioned that your hypothesis is that it's a Stalk on the H1N1. Dr. Flannery's presentation today for the VE for this year shows that the LAIV is not working particularly well this year, and that's an H3N2 season. I'm wondering if you can comment on that.
Yeah, thanks for that question, actually, because what I presented to you today shows the occurrence in 2013-14 that was related to the Stalk sequence. And, so that's one thing. It's an entirely different situation, what we've got going on in the current season, where the mismatch is really bad. So, as you probably recall, for H3N2 strains, we've shown in the past that we have provided really good protection against some of those mismatched strains. For example, in 1997, there was Sydney Wuhan, and in the comparative Belshi study in 2004, 2005, there was also an H3 mismatch, and the efficacy was really high in the 80s. So I think my own thought is that the kind of protection against a drift strain that you're going to see from any vaccine is really dependent upon the degree of match or mismatch, and there are limits for every vaccine as to what degree of mismatch it's still going to work against. After all, we change the vaccine every year to try to match it, and there's a reason why we do that.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Groskopf. And as Dr. Groskopf is getting ready, I'm just going to suggest that we would take, I know a couple of the people with comments on meningococcal disease need to leave because of flights, and I think after we're done with influenza session, we can probably take two of those comments who are most urgently needing to go, and then we'll try and adjust as we can. So thanks.
One moment, please. We good? Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thanks very much. In the interest of time, I'm not going to say as much as I wanted to say here, but this is a slide that would have appeared in Dr. Karen's presentation of the influenza work group members, whom I wanted to acknowledge, as well as many other people. The work that goes into getting all this together, it takes several score of folks, and I wanted to say more, but I just want to say how much you're appreciated. Thank you. So moving on to the details. For the current meeting, we have two proposed recommendations for next season. The first, as in previous years during February, the first thing we propose is reiteration of the core recommendations that annual influenza vaccination is recommended for all persons 6 months of age and older. Again, we've done this during the last several February meetings, just to remind everybody of that. As in previous seasons, a licensed age-appropriate influenza vaccine should be used. The recommendations for different vaccine types and specific populations are going to be discussed in the ACIP statement as they have been in previous seasons. Within the core recommendation, currently only one specific change in language is proposed right now as of this meeting, which begins on the next slide. If there are any further changes that are to be proposed for the 2015-2016 season, the work group will bring them to the June ACIP meeting. I'd like to pause now just to see if there are any questions about this aspect. We're good to go? Okay. Moving along. Okay, in addition, a revision to the guidance for the use of LAIV for healthy children 2 through 8 years is proposed for consideration. In June 2014, the ACIP voted to recommend for the 2014-15 season that when immediately available, LAIV should be used for healthy children aged 2 through 8 years who have no contraindications or precautions. As was planned and discussed after that recommendation was made in June, emerging data were reviewed, and the products of which you've seen presented earlier in this session, as well as at the October 2014 meeting. On the basis of this information, this language is proposed to be revised as follows. For 2015-2016, for healthy children aged 2 through 8 years who have no contraindications or precautions, either LAIV or IIV is an appropriate option. No preference is expressed for LAIV or IIV for any person aged 2 through 49 years for whom either vaccine is appropriate. This would be a change of one bullet in the list of recommendations related to LAIV use that appeared last year. I haven't reproduced the whole list in this slide out of the interest of time and space, I do have some slides that follow that put it into context. The bullet that immediately follows outlines which groups should not receive LAIV, and at present, no changes are proposed to those recommendations. This is the only aspect of the recommendations for which a revision is proposed. And I'll pause here.
So we're open to any questions or comments? It appears that you've covered it well.
Okay. If one would like to see the context for the new bullet, which is in this slide in red, the first bullet will reiterate that all persons aged at least 6 months should receive influenza vaccine annually. Vaccination should not be delayed to procure a specific vaccine preparation if an appropriate one is already available. This is a concept that appeared as well last year. Then there is the proposed revision bullet. Immediately following is the list that appeared last season of groups for whom LAIV should not be used. No revisions are proposed here at present. If there's anything to be discussed in this list, we will bring it in June. And finally, last season, there was language also which is not proposed for change, which has to do with groups for which LAIV is a precaution as opposed to a contraindication. I won't spend time on this unless desired, since I know we're running short of time. So in a nutshell, again, in summary, our two proposals are to have, if the ACIP pleases, a vote on reiteration of the core recommendation, as well as an opinion on any change in language for LAIV use for healthy children aged 2 through 8 years. And I'll close there. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Is there further discussion here? I thank the work group for a very succinct presentation here. But if there are no further questions, do we have any move for Dr. Bocchini?
I move to accept the recommendations of the work group.
And any second? Dr. Bennett. So we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will start with Dr. Campos-Outcalt, and we can work to your right. So Dr. Reingold.
Campos-Outcalt, yes.
Reingold, yes.
Pellegrini, yes.
Dr. Tempte, yes.
Bennett, yes.
Rubin, yes.
Romero, yes.
Harriman, yes.
Harrison, yes.
Belongia, abstain.
Karen, yes.
Kemp, yes. Riley, yes.
Bocchini, yes.
Vasquez, yes.
And the motion passes 14-4, 1 abstention. So thank you very much. And I just like to point out that despite the fact that we made a recommendation in June using the grade process with moderate evidence, we made a strong recommendation. ACIP can change as evidence changes. And I see this as the real power of both transparency and having a formal process by which we consider all the evidence and change as appropriate. As we are moving to the HPV section, I'm going to take the opportunity to have 3 of the public comments come up just out of respect for their travel and their time. So we have Andy Marceau, Scott Parkhurst, and Frankie Milley, if you can come up to the microphone. And again, my apology, but we want to try and keep the statements brief. And again, if there's any conflicts of interest, please let us know. Thank you, Frankie.
But there was no marketing, there was no recommendation, there was no accessibility, so he died. A permissive recommendation now would have still meant that he died, because I still wouldn't have known about it. You know, to me, this is like if you have a ship with 100 passengers on board You have 100 life vests and that ship is sinking. You hand out 50 of those life vests and the other 50 people watch theirs hanging in the closet as they drown. We can't, you've done a great job in protecting these kids so far from this disease. We've got half of the puzzle there. We need to finish the puzzle. So I am really encouraging you as you move forward to work fast on this, because I really believe a permissive recommendation in an outbreak, somebody's going to die before that happens or be left debilitated. That's wrong. We shouldn't have to have a sacrificial lamb. And I would encourage you to move away from those living in dorms. We've been fighting this 10 years, and we still argue with physicians every day that they don't have to live in a dorm to get this. 5 of our kids were told, you don't live in the dorm, you don't get the vaccine, and all 5 of them died. So I just want to encourage you to really think about moving fast on this issue so other kids don't die. Thanks again.
Thank you, Frankie. Is this Scott?
Yes.
So, Mr. Parkhurst?
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. My name's Scott Parkhurst. I'm from Portland, Oregon. My son Jake is the youngest of 2 of my boys. He was an A student, junior in high school. He loved golf. He skied, snowboarded, ride motorcycles. He was into baseball. I got a call Sunday night about a year ago to the date that he wasn't feeling well. He was with his mom, and I said, drink your fluids and we'll see how you feel in the morning. The next morning, I texted him to follow up how he was feeling, and he said his mom was taking him to urgent care. 10:30 Monday morning, I texted his mom, and she said he was being put in an ambulance and taken to the hospital. I drove to the hospital. I was in the ER, and the doctor pulled me and his mom aside and said he may not make it. And I asked him, I said, fight for your life. And he nodded his head, and they took him to ICU, and he was in a medically induced coma. They couldn't, they had to help him fight the antibiotics. I'm sorry. Later that evening, they noticed one of his pupils was dilated, and they thought there might be some brain issues. And so they started to wean him off the medication. And he wasn't showing any responsiveness, so they did an EEG and determined that he was brain dead. Jake was dead within 36 hours. Cause of death, meningitis B. I took my oldest boy to Canada to get him vaccinated for meningitis B. And I shouldn't have had to take him to Canada. And I believe a permissive recommendation would be the death of Jake all over again. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. And Andy Marzo?
Yeah, I'm Andy Marso. I'm from Topeka, Kansas. I had prepared some remarks, but obviously I just kept paring them down. And in the interest of time, I wrote a 270-page book about my experience. So if you want it, Dr. Pickering has a copy. And really, the time element here doesn't necessarily matter, because no matter how much time I had, I wouldn't have been able to convey to all of you the horror of going from a completely healthy college student to within 24 hours being life-flighted on a helicopter to a level 1 trauma center with my lungs failing, struggling to breathe. I wouldn't be able to convey to you what my parents felt when they arrived that night and I was already unconscious and the doctors told them I might not survive. I wouldn't be able to convey to you the deep distress of waking up from that coma 3 weeks later and realizing I couldn't move my hands and feet, and having doctors remove the bandages to show me that my arms and legs were rotting while still attached to my body. I would not be able to convey to you the pain of the next 3 months, both physical and emotional, that I spent in the burn unit at KU Medical Center, having my arms and legs debrided daily. I would not be able to convey to you the post-surgical pain of amputations that were still necessary to my feet and hands. I would not be able to convey to you the frustration of the year of physical and occupational therapy that I needed to be able to wipe myself and feed myself as a 23-year-old man. No matter how much time you could give me, it would not repay my father's insurance company for the $2 million in medical bills that we billed them that first year. It would not compensate me for all of the thousands in out-of-pocket costs I have paid every year since for my medical needs, including my prosthetics to walk and stand. Those costs will be with me for the rest of my life. When you consider these recommendations, please consider not just the cost, but the cost burden. Mass vaccination spreads that cost burden equitably among a large population. Neglecting to vaccinate large populations concentrates the cost burden for this disease on families like mine, and it is enormous. The recommendation that you all made today is a start, but it's barely a start. What it basically says is that if you go to a school like the University of Missouri, where they just had a confirmed MenB case, you got to wait for 2 more people to get sick because that's a big school. So they're not going to bring in the vaccine until at least 2 more people are critically ill. That's not acceptable. That's not preventative medicine. That's crisis management, and it's not even very effective crisis management. I would much rather see us prevent this before it happens. So what I urge you all to do is be bold and consider your legacy. We have a chance to wipe out a disease that causes incalculable human suffering. And one of the most important pieces of that puzzle is your recommendation. Thank you.
And thank you very much for your eloquent words. Do we still have some computer issues going on? So I'm wondering if there are some additional of the public that are willing to come up at this point in time. And again, please state your name, your association. Thank you so much.
Hi, this is Lynn Bozoff with the National Meningitis Association, and I have no disclosures to make. You know, as many of you know, NMA is comprised of survivors and families who have all suffered tremendously from meningococcal disease. In January, NMA hosted a roundtable with survivors, their family members, infectious disease specialists, college health officials, and others who could all offer a unique perspective and knowledge about meningococcal disease. Today, we would like to share our outcome from that meeting, which is an outcomes report that is in your packets and is also available on the back table. It gives voice to the concerns and worries about the participants. The report points out the long-term impact on survivors, the life-altering changes for all of their families, and the effects on an entire community long after the immediate impact. So, as others have said, as you consider serogroup B recommendations, in light of all the cases and outbreaks that have occurred recently, please consider these life-altering and life-changing perspectives. I've heard from so many families who have lost children to the B serogroup who thought their children were protected because they had been vaccinated according to CDC recommendations. We now have the tools to protect against the most common strains of this disease. We need to do the right thing and routinely recommend vaccination for adolescents and teens. It's the only way that parents who rely on physician recommendations can have the opportunity to fully protect their children. Thank you. And we have a short PSA to show. I don't know if you're ready to show that or if you want to show that later.
I think we're having trouble with the visuals, but we will make sure we get that on up. So thank you very much, Lynn.
Hello, my name is Pat.
Actually, do we have it? And the question is, do we have, I'm sorry to interrupt.
You protect your children.
You teach them how to brush their teeth.
How to wash their hands.
To look both ways when crossing the street.
You take them to the doctor when they're sick.
And you vaccinate them.
And you vaccinate them.
And you vaccinate them.
There wasn't a vaccine to protect against strain B, meningococcal disease, when my daughter died.
When my daughter died.
When my daughter died.
But now there is.
Learn about vaccines for meningococcal meningitis.
Just get the facts and vaccinate. It's the right thing to do.
Visit the NMA website at nmaus.org.
Okay, I'm glad we could do that. And so I think we'll move on to the next comment. So,
hello, my name is Patty Lukowitz, and I'm here representing the National Meningitis Association. In 2012, my beautiful daughter, 17-year-old Kimberly, a healthy high school senior in New York, died of serogroup B meningococcal disease just 1 week before graduating. We buried her in her prom dress just 2 days before she would have been able to wear it at her prom. I'm a nurse, and when Kim got sick, I was sure it wasn't meningitis because she'd been vaccinated. I assumed that the recommended vaccine covered it all, and I thought she was safe. After losing Kim, I dedicated myself to learning more. There were no approved serogroup B options then, but there are now. Please try to think about the message that parents will hear. The CDC recommends that your child be vaccinated against meningococcal disease, but this vaccine won't protect against all strains of the disease. There is an additional vaccine that protects against the strain most common in adolescents. It's not recommended, but your child can get it if you want it and if you're able to obtain it. As a healthcare professional, this is an extremely complicated message to deliver. And more importantly, it's a hard message for a parent to hear and understand. We cannot expect parents to know that their children are not protected against serogroup B, and we cannot expect healthcare providers to act without strong guidance from this committee. That's why I'm asking you to consider broad recommendations for this vaccine. A recommendation would make it easy for parents to do the right thing to vaccinate their children. The bottom line is, Kimberly would be alive today if she had had the opportunity to have been protected by the B vaccine. Instead, as her mother, I am standing here literally in Kim's shoes, the very shoes she should be wearing right now in her 3rd year of nursing school, fulfilling her dream to become a pediatric nurse. Please help ensure that all children get the protection they need so that what happened to my family and to Kimberly does not happen again. Thank you.
thank you very much.